Hi, I'm Larry Griffith, CEO of Corporate Chaplains of America. But I've spent most of my life just like you, leading a for-profit business and trying to maximize return on investment. Now, as we think about C12, one of our values is having a Bema mindset. Another way of saying that is to think about an eternal return on investment for our lives, and specifically how we do business as a ministry with excellence. I thought of an equation as I've reflected on my life on some things that have really worked and some pitfalls actually that I've experienced as a business leader that I'd like to share with you today. The first couple of variables we're going to talk about is C1. And C1 is accretive to eternal ROI, and that's care. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're in C12 is that you care about people. You know that the great commandment is to love God and to love people. And that's a beautiful thing. A challenge, though, that I've experienced, at times a challenge, at times a benefit, is control. And I know as a business leader, I really want to control things. And again, that's often served me well. I'm sure it serves you well. But at times it can really kind of work against me, where I can even get a bit of a mini God complex. So as I think about the equation, simply put, is it C1 minus C2? And so as I care for folks, I realize that what Jesus says in Matthew 10:42 is true, that even as I give a cup of cold water in his name, that reward is certain. But again, as I try to control things, it kind of sometimes can lead to things that ultimately take away from me caring for my people and thinking with an eternal mindset. Now, within this equation, it's important to remember that care actually can be exponential. I believe the verse is Luke 6:38, where it says that if as we give, it will be given to us. As we care for others, it will be given to us. In fact, it's pressed down, shaken together, kind of pouring over. So there's kind of an exponential benefit to caring and giving and really wanting to serve others as we think about this equation. Now, there are two other variables, and the first we're going to talk about is self. Now, the Bible has a word for self, and that word would be flesh. And this is just kind of when we bring our natural skills and abilities, our natural giftings to the table, that's the self. And certainly, there's good sides to that, but ultimately the flesh leads to death. And so the flesh always is kind of a big goose egg as we think about this equation. And no matter how much caring I do, if it's in my own strength, and even if I minimize control, if I'm just kind of doing it from who I am as a person, then whatever's in brackets multiplied by 0 is always going to be 0. In fact, Paul says it really well at the end of Romans 7. Like, who can save me from this body of death? Because truth be told, myself, oftentimes it takes me to do things I don't want to do, and the things that I know I should do, I don't wind up doing. And there's a great answer that's given to us really in that same passage in Romans, and that is the person of the Holy Spirit. Now, the Holy Spirit makes all the difference because, the Bible is not an instruction manual for life solely, but actually it's a living and breathing book from a living and breathing person of the Holy Spirit. And as the Holy Spirit kind of comes into my life, and as I yield my life to the Holy Spirit, it makes all the difference. And actually it's kind of the real driver of eternal ROI, and as I look forward at maximizing my Bema seat experience in eternity. So the really cool thing about the Holy Spirit is that it's not just a normal variable, but it's really the true exponential variable here. So as I live by the Spirit, because again, without the Spirit, I'm a goose egg, and anything multiplied by 0 is nothing. But as I live by the Spirit, and I think it's Romans 8:13 says, if I live by the Spirit and by the Spirit put to death the flesh, then suddenly I'm talking about the Holy Spirit minus self, and that's going to be the Holy Spirit minus 0. So suddenly the self means nothing, and I'm living by the Spirit. It's exponential, and it's really the driver of this equation. So now when I care for people, I'm caring through the person of Jesus Christ himself through the indwelling Holy Spirit. It's just amazing. So I would encourage you to take some time and really marinate your mind in Romans chapter 8. It's known as the Great 8, the greatest chapter perhaps in the entire Bible, and really hunker down there. And after you've spent some time in Romans 8, perhaps even go back and spend time in Romans 6, 7, and 8. Read those verses, meditate on those verses, pray those verses. And I think if we live as believers, as business leaders, as C12 members in Romans 8, and we really experience the life-giving joy of the Holy Spirit in our lives, we're going to be set up for a maximum Bema seat experience when we look Jesus eye to eye. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your attention.